I wonder if he'll run as a Democrat or an independent.
Never know. Might be a Republican.
Please. Kind of self-respecting black man will run as a Republican. Name one thing the Republican Party has done for black people. One!
Well, they were the party of Lincoln. They stood against the tyranny of oppression by leading the call for the Civil War and forced passage of the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed the slaves.
I named two things lately.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what party he's with.
Hey everybody, welcome to Dino Reacts. On my journey trying to understand the differences between Republicans and Democrats, I found a video here by Prager University that's shining a light on the subject. So, as always, let's get after it.
On a time, every student of history, and that meant pretty much everyone with a high school education, knew this. The Democratic Party was the party of slavery and Jim Crow, and the Republican Party was the party of emancipation and racial integration.
Okay.
Democrats were the Confederacy, and Republicans were the Union. Jim Crow Democrats were dominant in the South, and socially tolerant Republicans were dominant in the North. But then, in the 1960s and 70s, everything supposedly flipped. Suddenly, the Republicans became the racists, and the Democrats became the champions of civil rights. Fabricated by left-leaning academic elites and journalists, the story went like this. Republicans couldn't win a national election by appealing to the better nature of the country. They could only win by appealing to the worst. Attributed to Richard Nixon, the media's all-purpose bad guy, this came to be known as the Southern Strategy. It was very simple. Win elections by winning the South. And to win the South, appeal to racists. So the Republicans, the party of Lincoln, were to now be labeled the party of rednecks. But this story of the two parties switching identities is a myth. In fact, it's three myths wrapped into one false narrative. Let's take a brief look at each myth in turn. Myth number one, in order to be competitive in the South, Republicans started to pander to white racists in the 1960s.
Okay.
Fact, Republicans actually became competitive in the South as early as 1928 when Republican Herbert Hoover won over 47% of the South's popular vote against Democrat Al Smith. In 1952, Republican President Dwight Eisenhower won the southern states of Tennessee, Florida, and Virginia. And in 1956, he picked up Louisiana, Kentucky, and West Virginia too. And that was after he supported the Supreme Court decision in Brown versus Board of Education that desegregated public schools, and after he sent the 101st Airborne to Little Rock Central High School to enforce integration. Myth number two, Southern Democrats, angry with the Civil Rights Act of 1964, switched parties. Fact, of the 21 Democratic senators who opposed the Civil Rights Act, just one became a Republican. The other 20 continued to be elected as Democrats or were replaced by other Democrats.
Okay, and this is just my observation recently. When I look at the effects of Jim Crow and the civil rights of that era, and how the Republicans supported it, and how the Democrats currently today go against them, to me, I see them running the same plan. It's just that they just switched slavery to welfare. That's all that really happened. And the same tactics that they used in slavery, even though those methods were more physical, they use the tactics more psychological now. And it takes a lot of people to be able to see it, but in general, by masses, the minorities don't see it. The most people that blindly and emotionally vote Democrat don't see that the Democrat Party didn't change. They're still the same. And when I speak up against it, I get attacked. I get attacked personally. They don't attack my points of view. They attack me personally. But so far, I'm coming to an understanding. This is all news to me, but it's sounding familiar to my own theories. But we're going down this rabbit hole together, so let's continue.
On average, those 20 seats didn't go Republican for another 2.5 decades. Myth number three, since the implementation of the Southern Strategy, the Republicans have dominated the South. Fact, Richard Nixon, The man who is often credited with creating the Southern strategy lost the Deep South in 1968. In contrast, Democrat Jimmy Carter nearly swept the region in 1976, 12 years after the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And in 1992, over 28 years later, Democrat Bill Clinton won Georgia, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, and West Virginia. The truth is, Republicans didn't hold a majority of Southern congressional seats until 1994, 30 years after the Civil Rights Act. As Kevin Williamson of National Review writes, if Southern rednecks ditched the Democrats because of a civil rights law passed in 1964, it is strange that they waited until the late 1980s and early 1990s to do so.
Is me seeing this is what I always said. The rednecks only represent a very small populace of actual Republicans. Republicans are the ones that fought in the Union Army and died for our freedom. You know what I'm saying? And that sentiment of white men actually caring about us and caring about the sentiments of like who actually supported the civil rights and made those votes. Because forget, in order for black men and black women and women in general get the right to vote, it was white men that did it. And the fact that we don't give them any credence is really sad. And most of those men were conservative Republicans, you know? And the fact that those things are not being linked together, I think it's an emotional thing. And they've made things so emotional that the logic just doesn't come together. And for so many black men like myself, where the logic is, where the rubber's meeting the road with our minds, we're being outcasted. But that's only for now. We're going to keep the message going, and we're going to keep it out there.
They say things move slower in the South, but not that slow. So what really happened? Why does the South now vote overwhelmingly Republican? Because the South itself has changed. Its values have changed. The racism that once defined it doesn't anymore. Its values today are conservative ones, pro-life, pro-gun, and pro-small government. And here's the proof. Southern whites are far more likely to vote for a black conservative like Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina than a white liberal. In short, history has moved on. Like other regions of the country, the South votes values, not skin color.
Yeah, and that also includes my boy Byron McDonald and Wesley Hunt. There are a lot of black male conservatives that I look up to that I wish that I would have had that leadership early in my life than having hip-hop, the streets, and gangbanging to be my way to be introduced into masculinity. And following that left me behind in a hole. Now I'm in my 40s and I'm realizing the error in all my ways. Now I'm trying to get myself behind them, and it's hard. It's really hard, but I'm not quitting on myself because I know that following conservatism is my only way out of the blindness that was my ignorance. Was like ignorance, my ability to ignore the truth. Now I can't ignore it anymore, and I'm seeing the light. And that also means I'm shining a light on my own evils. I'm sorry, God. But I'm coming around, Jesus.
The myth of the Southern strategy is just the Democrats' excuse for losing the South, and yet another way to smear Republicans with the label racist. Don't buy it. Carol Swain, professor of political science and law at Vanderbilt University for Prager University.
As you can see, there are some holes in the stories that I didn't understand. I didn't understand about Nixon and Woodrow Wilson. I didn't understand about Theodore Roosevelt and Dwight D. Eisenhower. I had no understanding. But as I dig deeper into my knowledge of the Republican and Democrat Party, the switch to why black folks vote predominantly Democrat, and why there is no respect for the Republicans that fought for my rights, for my civil rights. All right. I hope that people are enjoying this journey along with me, and as I learn more, I'll share more. So this is the main part of that knowledge, and what I truly gained from that video was that I don't know anything, which is kind of funny, but I will continue forward and figure things out. I'll bring out more videos, so let's continue to learn more, progress more, and walk our way out of the Democrat plantation. No more ignorance over here. Ooh, here we go again. Thank you guys again for watching Dino Reacts. And as always, if you like my content, like, comment, and subscribe. And always, chef's kiss. Mwah.